Share going.
And I love that when you all come on to these meetings that you all are all saying hello to everyone. Thank you all so much. I love the community that you're building. So thank you all for that.
Okie dokie. Is that good? Everybody got it? Hot dog. Teaching an old dog new tricks. Okie dokie, folks. First, I will, this is a cautionary note at the beginning. I haven't actually done this presentation before, so I'm kind of, hopefully it'll stay within the time limits. Ask your questions when they come because I'm moving on, folks. We're going to talk about how art fits into American Indian kind of communities. And this is a very generalized umbrella when we're talking about these societies, these communities. So, first thing I did is I Google it and see what pops up. Well, this pops up when you Google American Indian art, which is interesting because most of these artists are not American Indian. So it's when you Google American Indian art, typically what you get is the subject matter. It has to do with those cultures. And I want to emphasize cultures, plural. There's a whole ton of them. I would use other language, but that's okay. There's a whole bunch of them. And when you start kind of drilling down into it and you think just in your own head about American Indian art, typically these types of things come up. These are actually some fairly well-known artists, Remington, John Clymer, just a variety of people. And their subject matter is typically Western tribes. But the other thing that comes up are these types of things that, the clothing, the decorative elements on the clothing, Kachina dolls, potteries, Navajo rugs, jewelry, and R.C. Gorman typically pops up because he's very commercialized at this point. And then ledger art, typically, if you're in the museum scene or the collector scene or kind of the far end of art or art writ large, then these ledger art comes up. And that's one of the first things I wanted to talk about. Ledger art is an outgrowth of artwork that was done typically by men on the plains. This is in the central and southern plains. And then a little bit later, it was expanded simply because this happened when these men were incarcerated during the Indian Wars of the 1850s through the 1880s, up in early 90s. These folks got taken a lot of times to military installations and incarcerated as prisoners of war. Some of them were shipped down to Florida. And during that time, the soldiers that worked in the forts and in the prisons got to know these men, and they offered them ledger books, which were the books that were used in business to record inventory or sales or whatever it happened to be. But this is an outgrowth of something that they were doing already. The top image is one of a calendar count. It's an annual kind of a mnemonic for remembering what was happening during times of a particular year or multiple years. And all of this is kind of helping somebody who works from oral history to remember their tribe's history and events that happened. On the outside of teepees, typically men would paint designs and scenes from their own history. So somebody could look at the teepee and know what type of person lived there, especially with regard to military pursuits, warfare, tribal honors, and things like that. There were also more decorative work that was done on hide clothing, like the buffalo robe that this guy is holding. And that's by one of the Carl Bodmer's paintings. We talked about him a bit earlier. This is what a ledger looks like. Typically, they would use pages that were not written on, but sometimes they had been used and they were just torn out, or the books were taken apart and the paper was used and given with either just regular pencils or, the top of the line was colored pencils to these native artists, these men. And they produced essentially the same type of scenes and depictions of events in their own life, events in the stories people had told them. Frequently, this was their own exploits or somebody very near them. So these are from, again, the Plains tribes. This typically didn't happen with anybody else but these groups of people. And it was very short-lived during the 1860s through the 1890s, because after that, generally speaking, the guys were released. They either died or released from prison. And so when they came back, this kind of dropped out of, they didn't do it anymore. Now, folks have picked this up more recently, including some female artists. And I was talking with her a few years ago, and the lady that does the upper right images, she said that there were male artists who didn't think she should be doing this because it wasn't something women were supposed to do. And it's like, really? This is 2000 and then 2020. And I just looked at her and I said, and what do you think? And she says, I can paint whatever I want to. And I said, good for you. So this is the type of thing, it still comes very much from the artist's personal experience. It's holding on to the tradition of that background being either a created or an actual ledger book, or a page from some other type of business, like the hotel piece at the bottom right. Again, these are contemporary artists that are drawing from their own artistic history, their own cultural history, and tying it into the history of ledger art writ large. This would be an easy thing to do with your students.
Do you remember how that was like the
You can
problem
pull
child, that
stuff
photo?
out of your, office memos, and then you have a day in the life of a student as a ledger work, or it would be, I think, pretty interesting to see what they would come up with. This painting tradition stretched into the woman's realm. Typically, women didn't paint much except for these. These are called parfleches. Basically, it's a material that's made from rawhide. Rawhide is just an animal hide. It's had the fat and the meat and the hair removed. You stretch it out and let it dry, and you have rawhide. This is the same dog-eat-chew toy that's in the grocery stores. You can unroll one of those, and you have a nice palette-sized piece of material to work on. It's really, really thick, though. Most of this is a little bit thinner. It was used as container material. Anything that needed a very durable container, this was used in all of them. I have never seen one of these historic pieces that was not decorated. Typically with geometric designs. Now the knife sheath in the center, those are dragonflies. Dragonflies were known to be, they're very territorial, very fierce, and very powerful for their size. So they were one of the things that was known to be a good helper if you were a warrior. Some of these were made into bags, like a purse, essentially. And some of these are quite large, like the one in the upper left is probably 2 feet long, 18 inches wide. And some of them were much larger than that. The newer versions of these, again, using traditional materials, traditional design of how the thing is put together, but the painting is very contemporary. Whether you're adding things that didn't typically go together in the traditional sense, like portraits, with geometric designs that were much more traditional. And frequently the set in the center is essentially a sewing kit for a woman. You have the little round piece on the left side is an awl case, a knife, a sewing kit, and the small piece at the top is the actual needle case where you would keep threads or sinews and needles, and the rest is your equipment to hold everything together. That was typically what a plainswoman would have near her or on her belt at all times. It was kind of, and then the bottom piece is a purse, essentially. And these are made now as purses, as equipment that ladies carry daily, or special ones, perhaps for powwow or regalia. This pulls into the much more contemporary fine art painting scene. All of these are contemporary artists that you can find online. And of course, I can't bring my notes up. Jean Quick to See Smith is the left. Rance Hood is the center. I'm not going to come up with the guy's name who paints Apache history on skateboards, which is pretty cool. The landscape in the bottom is a Walla Walla guy. And then this collage is by Amiot, author Amiot. So again, they're bringing this very old sense and tradition of painting to a very contemporary style. Again, they're kind of checking into their native heritage. All of these, the imagery that may seem very stereotyped is not stereotyped, because these gentlemen that are using those images, especially the two center images, they're from the plains. And the guy who does the Apache history on the skateboards is Apache. So again, they're not borrowing from somebody else. They're using their own traditions and design elements when it comes to shield designs or images, or the decorations on clothing and things like that is accurate for who they are. We're going to switch really quick and go to the Northwest Coast. Carving is a huge part of Northwest Coast art, and this goes from Northern California, typically, and then all the way up, sweeping up into Alaska. So when we talk about the Northwest Coast, you can just kind of throw out the state boundaries and go from geographically what it's looking like. These people are rely on timber and rely on the ocean for their food. So this is a Hawkyuth or Haida canoe. It is a handmade canoe. All the paddles are either carved and or painted. The designs are specific to the clans that the owner of the paddle has. These are ones that they use. So it's not something that they only pull out. They pull it out every time they get into these canoes. So it's a useful item. This is the folks that actually do the totem poles and have been doing totem poles for generations. This artwork is very specific. There's nothing that I've seen across the world that looks anything like this. The interesting part to Northwest Coast art is that there are no right angles anywhere in the carved or painted pieces. If you look at these, if you find a right angle, then people who are Northwest Coast artists would say you've either made a mistake or it's not Northwest Coast art. Bill Home wrote a very readable treatise on Northwest Coast and how this fits into their society. They don't just use these as artwork that gets printed and made from lithographs and sold as note cards in the gift shops. This is carved work on ritual pieces, like the mask at the bottom is an actual headpiece. The piece on the bottom left is a blanket. You have the prow of a canoe, and yeah, the top piece is just artwork. But these were used. Here's a really good image. So if you start looking for right angles, you won't find any in this. The palette is very limited. You might get some reds and yellows, black. It has to be a particular shade of blue. And other than that, they don't veer very far away from this particular palette. Masks are another place where you find this. The whole top row is Northwest Coast. The whole bottom row is Eastern Woodland. So I wanted you to see how different they are. The two on the bottom left are Iroquois. The two on the bottom right are Cherokee. Quite a bit different. And the three of them are carved of the ones here. One is made of corn husk, and that is particular to Iroquois folk to make masks like that. But if you're looking at the range of masks, again, Northwest Coast art is very characteristic for this whole entire area, and it goes up into Alaska. Some of these masks actually move, so they're called transformation masks. So the panels will close one over the other, and so you see when they're used for a dance, that character will transform from one character to another. So again, drawing something like this, or if you're doing sculpture with your students, it would be pretty fascinating to see what they would come up with if they can't use a right angle. Again, very utilitarian pieces. The paddles on the top. This bottom right piece is actually a panel of a house. Originally, they painted the whole front of their houses were painted this way, with the doors were kind of round or oval, and they were incorporated into the design of the painting. So, and of course, yes, these are the folks that their totem poles are created the same way, with no right angles. When you work all the way up into the Alaskan range, this is the only group of people that I have seen in American Indian cultures whose artwork is very, very much abstract. Some of the Inuit and Inupiat and Aleut peoples of Alaska have, some of their work is very representational, like the little statue, and it has two heads because one of them is a child. The child rides on the mom's back in a fold of the parka, and so the hood covers them both, and that's why there's two heads. It's not anything other than quite a realistic representation. Again, you have the Northwest Coast style with a little bit, this is a more contemporary one using a larger palette than normal. This is a dance mask in the center. A lot of their stuff is very functional. It was made for the tourist trade. A lot of our work is still made for the tourist trade. These little things especially. But when you start looking at some of their other artwork, it becomes very abstract, and some more so than others. This is all contemporary, except for the piece in the center. All of this is very contemporary artwork. So, you know, thinking about the different sorts of art through, you know, either landscapes or portraiture or sculpture, it can go to the very abstract and still be within traditional kind of style, traditional Native American style. Beadwork is another huge piece that most people think about when they think of American Indians, is the beadwork, especially the stuff that you see out in the West. This is Eastern beadwork. So when you start looking at floral motifs, it's everywhere from just west of the Mississippi, all the way back east to the Atlantic and all the way down to the Gulf. Typically, that's all floral beadwork, if they do beadwork. Not everybody does it. And the geometric work typically is done in the plains and further west. Most of this is worked onto items that are functional. All of these, even the center bag, it's called an octopus bag. It's a man's kind of shoulder bag, and it has a strap on it that they're not showing, but essentially it's a big pouch. And the other ones are two small bags. They're women's bags. The one in the upper left was typically made for the tourist trade, especially up in the Canada, New York, kind of borderline area. And then of course the plain style moccasin. Again, this comes from an older technique using porcupine quills to do embroidery on material. The bag and the moccasin on the left are Eastern, and the little bag in the middle is kind of borderline plains and Eastern, and then the moccasin in the bag to the right are plains. So you can see that it goes from kind of floral, not quite geometric work, to more geometric work. Same thing in plains beadwork. There are two different styles. The lane or lazy stitch, you see these kind of rows that make it very easy to keep your geometric designs kind of in order. And then you have some of this is worked into pictorial designs with horses or flowers or curved lines. There's also particular palettes that are used for particular tribes. The item on the right is a crow bag. The plateau folks that are up in the north have a very different palette and a very different sense of how they put their designs together than other folks that are further south. You have the curvilineal designs from, again, just west of the Mississippi River, all the way to the east. And this is a different style, a different technique of beadwork, as well as the different, obviously different designs. And they do pictorial designs the same, like on a vest, just like the other one was. All of this is very flat. It's not ridged like lazy stitch is. You can see it, especially on the piece in the upper left, that it's very flat. The raised designs may come up only because your beads don't necessarily all have to be the same size as typically you have in lazy stitch. Again, the piece on the lower right was made essentially for the Victorian tourist trade. And you can see the Victorian influence in that this style was created kind of in the New York area. Essentially, missionaries got them to do it. And this comes into present day, not just on regalia, which is the two guys these are not the same guy, number one. The guy in the far left is a Northern Plains dancer. All of the blue that you see is beadwork. So you're using beads that are about the size of the head of a pin, a regular pin. And the guy on the next to him, you see the back of all of the white part is beadwork. His apron that's below his vest is made from ribbon work. It's kind of like quilting with ribbons. So two different styles, very unique in how they put stuff together. And typically the Southern Straight dancers, the guy you see the back of, typically have both geometric and floral designs. You see the woman's design, the whole top of her dress is beaded. These things weigh a ton. That's all glass. People are putting these, using traditional beadwork on new stuff with new designs for new reasons. This is a pair of Chuck Taylors. The little dancer in the center is a big medallion. It's about 6 inches long. These are sold and worn typically at native gatherings. The rosette also is a big medallion pendant. And the little groups over to the bottom right, bottom left are earring pairs. So again, some of these are made to give away and some are obviously an artist selling their work. What's interesting to me, and I know I've been running through this really quickly, is that the great majority, I'd say 80 to 85 to 90% of the items that are traditional to Native societies, utilitarian objects, are decorated. That means spoons, purses, ladles, quirts, horse gear, saddles, bowls, containers. All of this is decorated. And some of this takes quite a long time to do. All of these are spoons, either horn or wooden spoons. Some of these are made from antler. You can actually take horn and heat it up and flatten it out. That's how some of these bottom ones in the center bottom were done. Carving has always been both in horn and wood across the nation. One of the things that most men do. Most men are the ones that are doing the carving traditionally. There are women carvers today. It used to be that when women were traditional bead workers, now men are bead artists as well. So it's crossing those gender lines like it didn't used to do. But these very utilitarian items, again, these are just containers, essentially. All of them functional pieces that have been used throughout their life until they got stuck in a museum somewhere. Very utilitarian pieces. So all of these are decorated. The kind of yellow bag is actually made from corn husk. It's particular to the Nez Perce up in the upper kind of plateau region. And very geometric designs typically on them. And there is a characteristic for Nez Perce to do these. Women do these. Most of these others were made, the item might have been made by a man, but the decoration typically is done by a woman. And essentially, it's conspicuous consumption, like much of the other decorative work on teepees, on bags. It's a way to identify your stuff, number one. But number two, beads back in the day were expensive. And it was like, buying a Rolex for your hubby. If you did one of these beaded bags, if you beaded him a pair of moccasins and beaded them on the bottom, you can say, I'm so rich I can walk on my money. That's essentially what they were doing back in the day. And now it's certainly a tie to traditional culture and telling other people who you are. This is all horse gear. Now, if you're going to put it on a horse, it's going to get dirty and it's going to get torn up. That's what these things were used for. Showing, again, not only the beadworker's skill or the skill of the person making the hide itself, but also that somebody's wealthy and today what tribe you belong to. Typically, people who know beadwork can look at any of these and say, oh, well, that's Crow, or that's Nez Perce, or that's Lakota, or that's Apache, because each tribe has their own characteristics, even in contemporary work. Now, all of this comes to play, too, in other functional items that ceramics and pottery are one of the things that are vie with American Indian baskets. And baskets are easy to make. They're inexpensive to make. They're a boatload of expensive to buy now, even brand new ones. All of these are traditional baskets. In other words, they're old baskets with traditional style, traditional designs, very intricate work. It takes quite a while to make any of these, but particularly they speak to the traditions of the maker, whether they're Tohono O'odham or Pima baskets, Papago baskets, Yurok baskets. There's the hat in the upper right corner, again, Northwest Coast, you can't, and it's made out of cedar, by the way, cedar bark. And they have a fantastic weaving tradition using cedar bark because that's what they have up there, great loads of cedar. as we have in the Appalachian region, splint or split cane baskets or white oak split baskets. These folks were doing it a long time before we came along. These are, again, utilitarian items, especially the piece on the lower left. That's a burden basket from the Apache. These things were used in daily life. Just like we use our pots and pans, that's the way these were used. And today, people are creating baskets with traditional patterns, but they may have obviously a different use. If people are putting their pencils in them or putting them on the shelf as decorative art. So that's, now I really ran through that very, very quickly. So if you have questions about maybe how this could tie in a classroom setting, to me, it's an easy lift to go from, let me get out here. To go from this type of looking at these things, to me, figuring out, I'm all about process. And if I could see somebody making something, if I have it in my own hands, I do, if any of you all have come to Living Archaeology Weekend, we do hands-on stuff there. And I've had people come back to me that are probably in their mid-20s. I've been doing this since 2008. Saying, I remember when you were doing this way back when, and this is what I remember. And they tell me all about it because it sticks in their head. Because if you get their nose going and their eyes going and their hands going and their brain going, all focused on the same thing, oh, you've got them. So to me, getting your students to create artwork that maybe uses the techniques that are very traditional to Native American people, but creating something that's very contemporary and speaks to your students. Music. I didn't even go into that. Music, regalia, dance, all of that. And rap is very, very big on most reservations right now. Surprisingly, it surprised me. But they're using very contemporary music, again, to tell their own story, and they have their own history. It has a very, often a very native drum beat with that. So if you start looking up powwow music, if you start looking up American Indian rap artists, they'll pop up. You have fashion designers, you have painters and graphic artists. And I picked up a book. I'm going to get it. Hang on. Got this. I picked this up last week. It's called A Howl. And it's a indigenous anthology of wolves and werewolves and rougarou, which is the French. And this is graphic arts stories by young artists. The lady I spoke to looked like, well, she looked like she was 16. She was probably in her 20s. She was one of the artists. So thinking about Native tradition brought into, these designs with this, if you haven't seen that in the stuff that I just showed you, there it is. And they're combining some very traditional thought on werewolves, because they're werewolf stories and traditional kind of scary stories, with the artwork in a very contemporary format. So combining these things with your students, I think the key thing for me that it does is it drives home the fact that Native people are contemporary people, okay? That, yeah, they still actually wear these cedar hats on special occasions. It's not like they're going to put it on and go into Walmart. I don't know, they might. What the heck, if it's raining. But what I'm saying is that we need to make absolutely sure as educators that our students, who, however old they are, understand Native people are contemporary people. They're doing exactly the same things that you and I do. They microwave popcorn, they play on their Xboxes, they use the cell phones, and they go to powwow on the on the weekend. And they're cooking fry bread, So there's no separation between what used to be and what is now, unlike there's no separation between our own heritage. It continues to evolve and change, else we won't be here. But looking at art, looking at traditional art forms in these old pieces and seeing how people are bringing that into and being identified and acknowledged as Indigenous artists, to me is so rewarding it must be rewarding for them, because their grandparents have been doing these things quite literally for generations. And they're just, oh, she's in the Quill Workers Society. Okay, that's cool. But she's never considered an artist. Okay. Now, within Native societies, totem pole carvers were definitely considered artists, but that's not all they did. So to me, it's such an easy lift to combine language, music, more hands-on art, whether it's painting, drawing, or creating some three-dimensional objects, whether it's sculpture or beadwork or baskets or pots or whatever it happens to be. And Native culture, that's a no-brainer, folks. I mean, it's to me, it's so easy. And you're offering somebody something that they probably hadn't really thought of, which is, to me, again, making connections for your students that might open their eyes and their brains a tad to say, oh, I hadn't thought about it that way. And I think to me, that's the whole key. That's the whole key. If y'all have questions, I'd be happy to answer any questions. I feel like I've been going like really fast.
I have a question about, I'm in Fayette County, but we've been discussing a lot about cultural appropriation and appreciation. So I liked your example of when you were saying the student could do like a day in the life on a piece of their ledger paper. Do you have any other examples of how you could use all the information about the culture, but not just have all the students copying the designs?
Yeah. And a lot of those geometric designs are, you see them all over the world. And to some people, they mean a teepee, and to other people, they mean a mountain. You can use those geometric designs. You can use that color palette. You can put it on something as, I don't know, like a pair of Chuck Taylors, or a pair, I don't know, what are they? I can't come up with the name of the shoes that everybody wearing that you just step into.
Hey dudes.
Yep, those. So, if you're not trying to, okay, last time we talked about the Native American Arts and Crafts Act, okay? If you're really upfront and say, this is inspired by American Indian culture, cool, good, great. You need to acknowledge that. If you are trying to reproduce a particular item, you need to acknowledge that. I want to make something like that. I want to reproduce that. I want to make a reproduction of a museum piece. Be forthright about it. Absolutely. I want to know how they did that. I want to challenge myself to see if I can do it. Great. don't make something and put it on and beat yourself on the mouth and say, I'm an Indian. It show the respect and just be honest about what it is you're driving for. What's your point? If your point is to sell some items that look kind of sort of American Indian, you better have a sign on your table that says Native inspired. If you're a carded member of a federally or state recognized tribe, you need to have that information on your table for your, for your patrons, one or the other. And for your students, perhaps they need to understand why that law is in place. How often, somebody says, oh, well, that's a Rolex knockoff. Or that's a Gucci knockoff. So it's the same issue from the Native perspective. Yeah. And so again, you're pulling in a whole arena of information that you don't normally talk about when you talk about art. Although cultural appropriation, you typically do talk about. Same thing with, we got on a conversation about tattoos, tattoo designs, tribal designs, and you have these white boys with, New Zealand or Maori tattoos on. It's like, okay. Or Chinese or Japanese characters. I hope you really know what they say. But again, it's what's your point? And let's be honest about what that is. So, yeah. Did that answer your question? Kind of, sort of. I think some other easy examples are if you're going to make a pot, the technique can be a traditional Native American technique, cold pottery, for instance. Using the technique that a Native peoples uses, it can be enough if everything else is your design. Using beadwork, using a particular technique of sewn beadwork, but creating something, the design of which is all yours, pairs those two nicely. Creating a medallion, a beaded medallion or a painted medallion. What if you use rawhide and you put your school mascot on it? I mean, that is pairing the two as contemporary Native American artists pair the two all the time. It's just being very honest about where you get your inspiration. What if you put a Celtic design on it? Works for me. So I have seen beaded designs that are the YouTube logo, the little triangle in the red square. I saw that 2 weeks ago. It was a pendant. It was a beaded pendant. I've also seen Ninja Turtles. I've seen Superman and Spider-Man designs on beaded objects. And I've seen it's something from a video game. I don't know. I recognized it as a video game emblem, but I don't know which one it is. It certainly was not from traditional Native culture. It's contemporary Native culture. So again, you see that mashup of the old and the new, which is pretty cool. Anything else?
Tressa, you did have a question about the slide where you talked about the animals, like the beadwork that was made for the horses and the animals. There was in the top right, Des, if I'm getting this incorrect, I can't find it now in the chat, but the image in the top right, Des was wanting to know what that was.
Hang on.
It kind of looked like what I would think as a sheath for a sword, but I don't think that's what it was. I think
it's a crupper. It's a crupper. That piece, that goes, let me see if I can grab it real quick and show you. This piece? Is that what you're talking about?
No, I think it's the slide before that piece. Yes. that
This one?
Yes.
This is an awl case. That's a woman's awl case. So way back when, poking through very thick hide, they used an awl. AWL. And that is from the Apache culture. I think that one is Mescalero Apache. And typically they didn't put a lot of beadwork on their stuff, but they love these little tin cones. But that's what that is, a very utilitarian sewing equipment cover. That's what it is. Yeah.
So I was thinking it was kind of large. So that's the reason I thought it was short. So it's not something that's a large piece. It was more small, you would say, or is it large?
Yeah, it's probably 6 to 8 inches long. The main body of it is not more than that. And frequently these were made from bone originally. The awl itself was made from bone. It looks like a ice pick. But typically they still use them for different types of sewing because to have a big handle like that, it makes it a whole lot more comfortable to poke holes through really, really heavy material. Yeah. I thought it was this piece. That's the piece that goes, this part goes underneath the horse's tail. And this ties up to the back of the saddle. So all of this is on the horse's hip there. That's a saddle. But
And then Tressa, you do have one more question in the chat from Jeffrey as well.
okay. I'm looking for my chat.
Oh, sorry, I can read it to you if you'd like. You mentioned conspicuous consumption. Have any of the tribes you've mentioned utilized potlatch rituals?
Oh yeah, all the Northwest Coast folk do. They've brought it back. Potlatch, the Plains version of potlatch is a giveaway. And it's a way to redistribute wealth in kind of an unusual way. Some of the items were destroyed. There are what were called coppers in Northwest Coast tradition. And they had slavery of opposing tribes. If you got captured, you became a slave. Sometimes these slaves were killed, and this is way back in the day, obviously. And sometimes those coppers were destroyed. But it's a way to level the playing field when it came to wealth and a redistribution of wealth within not just a single community, but tied communities that are connected either through trade or through marriage or through clan systems or whatever it is. That's what that potlatch is. It was outlawed by the U.S. government probably in the 20s or earlier than that. I don't know. That's an area that is not, those dates and stuff were not handy in my brain. But it was outlawed because they thought, why are these people giving all their stuff away? And they weren't thinking that these folks are sharing what they have with the people who have less, but it was also a way for them to pay back commitments that they had made to help somebody. In the Plains tradition, they have giveaways, and that's essentially the same thing. It's a way to say thank you to people who have supported you through maybe some hard times, some people you really respect, and to give back to the community that has supported you up through whatever you just made it through. This still happens at powwows today. They'll have a giveaway, and sometimes it's quite lengthy, and they don't give away just they give away everything from candy to Walmart pots and pans and blankets and clothing. They also give away Pendleton blankets and saddles and horses and horse gear and you name it. It runs the range of expense. And again, it's a redistribution of wealth, and it's an empowering your community to support itself. That's what their traditional methods of this were in place, and frequently they were outlawed for a variety of reasons by the federal government back in the day. Yeah, so they went underground. Thanks for that. Yeah, I hadn't made that, wasn't going that deep. If you're interested in Northwest Coast stuff, I would highly recommend finding Bill Holm, Holm's work, Northwest Coast Indians, Indian art, Northwest Coast Indian art. It's very readable, and it still is kind of the first best critical analysis of that artwork, not just from an artistic perspective, but culturally as well. It's a pretty readable too, which is always a help. Anybody else?
I had a question. What was the significance of no right angles in the Northwestern? Was it just incidental, something that that they just did? I mean, I feel like it had some meaning.
I suspect it. I don't know it. You'd have to check with Bill Holm. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know why that is. And it may have just been something that may have been easier to create something that doesn't have right angles than something that does when you're thinking about artwork. Most critters and most things in nature don't have right angles. Man-made stuff does. Now, every so often you'll get some rocks that have a right angle, but typically trees don't, plants don't, animals don't, the ocean doesn't. Yeah, so I think that more than likely it was kind of we're trying to imitate nature. But I don't know that for certain. That would be my thought. Anything else? Cool beans. Again, let me know if there's something glaring like gap. If you want more reading, I'd be happy to share. You can find me at tressa.brown@ky.gov. Typically I work early. If you want to really have a good conversation with me, call me early in the day. This time of the afternoon, my brain is pretty much shot and I just need to like wash dishes or something. So again, do contact me and I'd be happy. I am free to come to your classroom. That's a good selling point because the state pays me. And I am very willing to drive from Paducah to Ashland to Pike County and have. So I left y'all Southern folk out, but there you go.
Yes. So another fantastic resource that we could put into your hands, and you all saw how absolutely interesting, and I think that your students would find it absolutely fascinating as well. So I'm going to drop your evaluation in the chat. I know there's lots of thank yous and lots of super interesting information. Tressa, there's lots of thank yous coming in, so I'll drop the chat or the evaluation in the chat again. Tressa, thank you so much. I will also send Tressa's email and contact information as well in your email that I'm going to send shortly, but stay on just a moment. We'll say thank you to Tressa, but I do have some information that I want to share with you before you hop off. I promise not to keep you after 5, so I'm going to talk very quickly. Tressa, thank you so very much. We appreciate you. And so hopefully we'll get to see Tressa in your classrooms very soon. Thank you, Tressa.
After the new year.
Yeah, after the new year.
Call me between now and then. Take care.
Thank you,
and again, thank you much for the invitation.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you very much. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so we have looked over your needs assessment. I know many of you filled out lots of things that you would like to see happen between now and the end of the grant year. So lots of exciting things happening. I'm going to put the evaluation in the chat just one more time. So, we always try to deliver what you ask for. And I'm going to share my screen really quickly because I told you I will not keep you past 5 o'clock. So let me share my screen. So you ask, we deliver. So we have a new opportunity. If you look up the National Calendar Day, I don't know, this calendar that tells you all the terrific days that are coming and what everybody declares as a national holiday. January 6th is the National Technology Day. So I got a wonderful email. Adam, I've not answered you yet, but Adam Mullins sent me an email and he was like, Wendy, can you help me with conferences that maybe we can present at and earn that great $100? So Adam, yes, I can help you. We're compiling a list for you all, and we're gonna send it out of all the conferences that you can present at. But here's one that you can present at, and it's with us. So we're gonna have an EdTech Unleashed, innovation for the new year. And here's what it is. I'll send all of this out to you, but we're calling all KEDC innovative educators to present on a Saturday between 9 and 12. It's going to be a virtual Zoom conference. So think about, and I'll stop sharing for just a second, and I'll send all of this to you. But think about all of the wonderful ed tech things that you all know, that you've learned. We want you to present. Yes, how exciting. Y'all are smiling. You all are not as excited as I am. So think about what you know, what you love, what you use in your classroom every single day. And look, there's 169 people on this Zoom. So even if you're just presenting in front of us, our family, our friends, Hero, Renaissance, Recharge, we're enough to be a conference. Think about that. We are big enough to be our own successful conference. So even if it's just a day of us, plus we're inviting Jackie's group. So we'll have Achieve and we'll have Aspire, Epic, and I think they've got a new name. Anyway, we're inviting her group too. So it's going to be amazing. And here's the best part of it. We're going to pay you to attend. Yay. So mark your calendar. Mark your calendar for January the 6th, 9 to 12. You can stay in your pajamas, even if you're presenting. So most of the time, I shouldn't even admit this, but most of the time I'm in pajamas on the bottom anyway. You all can't even see it. So you can stay in your pajamas on the bottom, even if you're presenting. And the great thing is you get paid to attend. And then the bonus is you can check off on invoice 2. If you present, you get to say, I presented at EdTech Unleashed, and you get that $100 bonus. Woo-hoo! See enough smiles. I do not see enough smiles. So that's $75 on a Saturday plus $100 if you present. That's $175 for 3 hours. I know. So think about what you can present on. It could be, I know, I'm getting lots of people saying, I'm ready, I'm ready. So I'm going to send in the Zoom or in the chat, I'm going to send an EdTech presenter application, which I know I've got lots of people interested, right? So here's the presenter, and I'm going to copy this. Oh, y'all are so excited. So I'm going to put presenter. So if you want to present, here's the presenter link. But if you say, Wendy, I really don't want to present, but I do want to attend, here's the attendee application. So if you just say, I don't want to present, but I do want to come and I want to learn from all of the amazing people that's going to be there. So here's just the attendee application.
And you fill out both if you want to do both, yes?
Fill out both if you want to do both. Absolutely. If you aren't sure yet, I would go ahead and fill out presenter because I'm going to just twist your little arms. So what's going to be great is Jamie, in all of her amazingness, she's going to let you, here's the great thing, you have choice. So it's going to be like a day where, like, the hard thing, it's going to be great, but it's going to be hard because there may be at 9 o'clock, we may have 6 sessions going on. So you get to choose the session that, so for example, think about it. You all have had amazing Canvas sessions. You've had some Wakelet sessions. Some of you, if you're brand new to the grant, you may say, oh my goodness, I've never seen Wakelet. You may say, I want to hop in and learn about Wakelet. There'll be a Wakelet session because I know Andrea Murray, she's a Wakelet ambassador. So she's going to definitely be presenting on Wakelet. And then some of you say, you know what, I've got a terrific Wakelet board, and maybe I'm not going to present on how to do Wakelet, but I'm going to present on all the amazing resources I've got in Wakelet. So how many presenters are allowed? I thought 69 of you that were on this call. I mean, we just may open it up and do all day Saturdays. I don't know. We may have to increase our time. I don't know. It's going to be awesome. So I'm so excited. What we may do on the form, in all seriousness, we've got a spot where you say, I need an hour or I only need 30 minutes. It is located virtually. So you get to sit in the comfort of your own home and you get to present online, which is going to be awesome.
Hey, Cindy, Miss Brianna Adams asked if presenters could present as a team.
If you think that, yeah, I mean, I think so. What we're asking on the presenter form is you have to kind of tell us your plan. So if on that plan, if it's deemed like, hey, this is the way we best present as a team, and if you can justify that in your team plan, I think we could probably shoot for it. So yeah. So sessions will either be 30 minutes or an hour, and we'll do our schedule based on that. You'll get to attend sessions based on your interest, based on your level. Yes, if you do not present and you attend, it'll be $25 per hour. So it's $75 for the day. Yes, it's so awesome. So this is exactly what you asked for. We're going to tailor this. And again, this is one of those things that I know sometimes it's really hard for you all. And again, you ask for different times, you ask for technology. I can't think of anything better than you all learning from the experts. Plus, a little birdie told me that you all wanted more of Jamie Saylor. So I've talked her into working on a Saturday. She's going to be presenting 9 to noon. I don't know if she knows she's presenting 9 to noon. Jamie, you're presenting 9 to noon, I think. So y'all are getting technology from her. I'm going to present a little session on something. I can't remember what I even said I was going to present, but I'm going to get a session in there probably on how to be funny. I think I told someone I was a comedian. I don't know if I told you that joke. I think I'm going to do a stand-up, I don't know. It'll be fun. So we're going to have a great day. It's going to be super
Wendy.
fun. Yes.
Wendy, I'll be your partner in stand-up comedian.
Okay, you'll have to tell the jokes because I'm really not funny. I just told somebody that. I don't know
No,
if I told you all that.
I can pull from real life experiences from school, so we got this.
So that's all I wanted to tell you. I talked a little longer. I promise I'm letting you go. I will send all of this in an email. I just wanted to get you excited. So, and here's the best thing about this. What a great way to start the new year. Building you up with technology, equipping you with technology that's going to get you really excited about a new school year or starting a new year. So I can't think of a better way than, and here's the best part of that is that's going to really empower you as the leaders that you are. We can pay for big time, technology experts, but we're wanting to esteem you all as the leaders that you are. So I can't think of anybody better to lead. And here's the other great thing. We're opening this up to all KEDC member districts. So you can say that you've presented in front of 70, I think we're up to 75 school districts now. This is going to be free for all 75 member districts. So sorry, I didn't mean to frighten anyone, but it's going to be awesome. So we're really, really excited about this. So you all are amazing leaders and we want to showcase you. So we'll be pushing this out to all of our KDC member districts as well. So your principal get this shortly as well. So we're so proud of you all. This is so exciting. And this is our first one. You all are starting this brand new conference for us. So Adam, I know that's the start of the answer to your question. So again, we listen to your feedback. You all are super important to us. Thank you for being amazing. I will stay on if you have questions specifically about your invoices. I did get a really good question. Someone said, Do we have to actually send or like type up our newsletters and make it in newsletter format? You do not. If you'll just send me a blurb, like a, paragraph, 2 paragraphs and a picture, Jamie does her magic and we put that all into a newsletter. So don't feel like you have to do the fonts and, turn it into a newsletter. Jamie is that incredible. She takes care of it, makes it beautiful. So you're just sending up like an art, like basically this is what happened. This is the picture. And then Jamie does her magic. So that's all I need for the newsletter.
Is there a particular topic you want for the newsletter this time? Because in the past,
No.
you guys had no.
No,
Okay.
no particular topic, just something exciting that's happening maybe with you as a teacher leader, with your students. And then another really great question that came up was, I don't know, I can't remember. Audrey, that's fine. Yours is great. Nope, that's perfect. Yeah, I'm glad that you all are using Canva and you made your own. I love it that you did. That's a good showcase of skills. So that's great. Question about the book. Yes. You only have to create the worksheet. Yes. So yes, Taylor. Yes, correct. Any of the due dates, if you all have any questions about any of the due dates or anything, just let me know. I don't care a bit to answer any of that. Somebody did ask another really great question that I'd answer for everyone. You do not have to turn in this December invoice. Some people are preferring to wait. So you can wait. If you choose to wait, like if you say, Wendy, I'm not ready for the December invoice, I won't be ready. Will you please just email Gabby and I to let us know? Because Gabby has a nice little check sheet. That way she can say, Helena's not turning one in. She's going to wait.
Oh my God, Wendy, on that, reminds everybody that they don't get paid this pay period. It won't be until the next quarter pay period when we do another. Another pay period. So we can't accept like every week getting an invoice.
Yeah. So if you don't turn in one, like Dr. Evans said, if you don't turn it in December, you won't get paid. You won't have the option to be paid again until March. So if you just choose December 1st, is we need everything in by the end of school, which would be 3 p.m. On December 1st. Tanya, does that answer your question? When did you say this would be? And I'll send you a reminder. I know Gabby's been sending out lots of emails about the learning sessions. I'll send that email out right now. As soon as I get off of this call, I'm going to send out, but I wanted you all to hear how exciting it is. It's January the 6th. Marilyn, if you put that in your plan, you can possibly present as a team. We just don't want, here's what I kind of fear. Not that I'm saying that would happen, but if Wendy King presents with Jamie Saylor, I would be like this, go Jamie. And I wouldn't do anything because Jamie's awesome. And I would just sit there, and Jamie would have done all the work and I would just kind of sit there. So just make sure your team that both people have an equal part, because I would just let Jamie go and I would not do anything. I would just say, she's awesome. So just make sure that you kind of talk about how you both utilize it, or, make sure that's clear in your plan. You do have to be live. You cannot pre-record. Yeah. So because, and the reason why, Taylor, is we want people to be able to ask you questions. That's a really good question. Thank you for asking that. We want this to be very active. I know in the past we've kind of had some people that did pre-record. It just wasn't. You all know, if the presenter is not, like this session, if the presenter is not live and you can't ask them questions, it just doesn't go as smooth.
Hey, Wendy, if we turn in our invoice December 1st, but we didn't get like all the little things checked off of that invoice, can we continue to work off
Absolutely.
of some later?
Yes, absolutely. You can always go back. This is kind of, I don't know if retroactive is the right word, but you can go back. This invoice will last all year long. Yeah. So like on invoice 2, I realized we will keep adding to that. So lots of people aren't even turning in invoice 2 as of yet. They're going to continue to work. The only thing that will not be ongoing on invoice 2 is the teacher's guide, because that has a hard due date. So for recharge, that teacher's guide has that hard due date that I can't, it just ends. When it ends because it has to go to the publisher.
Wendy, anybody in recharge can't go back and do any charge activities. Those ended there, November 17th.
They're not even on this invoice though.
Right. Got it.
They're not, they're not on this invoice. It is not too late to do the book study. You can still continue to do the book study. Yep. So you all can still keep working on the book study. Yep, you're good to go on that. Yeah, you're good to go on that. We want you, I guess it's probably like I was in the classroom. It's about the learning. We just want you learning.
Are you talking about the Google and Education book study?
Yes. And we will have another book study for each of the grants that will start up in the spring, and it will be like an actual book that we will be working and actually have good classroom work, and it'll be related to your disciplines. Like, so we'll have something for the arts and something for Hero that's going to be really fun. I'm super excited about that, and something really fun for Recharge as well. And it may not be tied to your trips where we're going to go. So it'll be fun. And even if you're not going on the trip with us, it is still going to be historical or arts related. So it's going to be super fun.
So on this application for presenting, you want a presentation title and then upload an outline, slides, or other document that summarizes your presentation. You want those things too, right? So that might take just a little bit to think about.
Yes, yes. And it can be like a rough draft sketch. Like, we realize that, you may change. It's not going to be your final draft, but like, if you generally know your outline of what you're going to be doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I'm really excited. It's going to be great.
Thank you.
Can I interrupt? Kathy, can I see the tiles above in your ceiling? What are all of those? I see them every time you talk, but I don't know what they are exactly.
Leah has some too. And it's the coolest tradition. I think every school needs to do it.
Kathy, you're going to have to unmute, honey.
Sorry, I muted myself just a second ago. They're from students. I don't have all my tiles up here because I moved classrooms, but I chose 6 that were especially meaningful. When kids are in 6th grade, now this year they'll be in 5th grade, obviously, they create a tile and they can put it anywhere they want in the building. And they can do it for a particular teacher or just in general, like have it in the cafeteria, for instance, or in the office or things like that. These are tiles that I've gotten over the years here. Some from kids that I had, not just in cross country, but also in my classroom and that kind of a thing. And then they just do something that speaks to them, and if they do it for a teacher, sometimes it's something that makes them also think of that teacher. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yes, and thank you for sharing. I've always wondered. I've always seen them, but I wasn't sure what they were.
Well, yeah. That one says I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. That's a cross country one.